Hello my dear friends, you're on the Military Summary channel, and this short video we're going to discuss the most important events that took place in Ukraine during the special military operation during the previous 12 hours. The Minister of Defense of Russian Federation provided us the first numbers of the results of yesterday's storming attempt from the Ukrainian side. The most important thing that the Russians reported that the Valery Gerasimov, the chief of the General Staff of the Armed Forces of the Russian Federation, was redeployed in this area. He was located there and he was personally controlled and coordinate the Russian forces in this area, so he take his personal responsibility for that attack. So that's why we take a decision to add his icon on the map showing his position, and so this is about the Russian General Staff. And now we are going to Vremivka tactical bridgehead. The Russians are saying that as a result of yesterday's attacks, the Ukrainians were using the squads and brigades and battalions of 23rd and 31st Mechanized Brigades. In more details, they were using 6 Mechanized Battalions, 6 Mechanized Battalions, and 2 Tank Battalions. The total losses of the Ukrainians, according to the Russian sources, were 250 soldiers, 16 tanks, 3 fighting infantry vehicles, and 21 fighting armored vehicles in that area. As we discussed yesterday, the Ukrainians started using their strategical reserves. So this is the 31st Mechanized Brigade, and this brigade was located in the vicinity of Zaporizhzhia, based on the previous versions of that map. And the Ukrainians redeployed the 23rd Mechanized Brigade in the vicinity of Korachova. Probably this 23rd replaced the forces of 72nd Mechanized Brigade, who were located there before them, or probably they are still there, but the main attack phase consists just from the 23rd Mechanized Brigade. So the Russians are saying that as a result of the clashes of the previous day, they managed to restore control over the settlements like Novodaryevka and Niskuchne. From the other side, the Ukrainian sources and the Western sources are saying that they still controls the Novodaryevka and the Ukrainians still controls Niskuchne. So for now, it's very difficult to understand, to determine who is telling the truth and who is lying. But I believe, and for now, I'm going to keep this map as is, showing that Novodaryevka and Niskuchna are under Ukrainian control. And why I'm doing this, because the Russians based their conclusions that they managed to restore control over those settlements just based on the fact that Ukrainians took a decision to remove their armored vehicles to the north from those positions. But when talking about the modern warfare, this is the normal tactics. Like, nobody keeps and leaves armored vehicles on the combat line after the counter-offensive operation. So when the forces attacks and they penetrate the enemy's defense orders, after some successful rush, they are removing back, and their positions are replaced by the Territorial Defense Brigade. And probably yesterday in the evening we saw exactly like that. After a successful penetration, the Ukrainians took a decision to remove the armored vehicles to the north and to make some kind of repair stuff, like service stuff, and probably to reorganize, regroup, and the positions that were captured by the mechanized forces and tank battalions was replaced by the Territorial Defense Forces. And though the main goal of those forces, of such type of forces, was to not allow the Russians to return control over the lost positions during the night. So probably that was exactly what I'm saying, and at least we need to wait a little bit more for today. And if the Russians return control over those settlements, we're going to receive more updates about that fact during the day. Now, during the 5th of June, the Ukrainians launched another wave, the second wave of counter-offensive operation in this area, but they were attacking not on the bridgehead between Livadne, Ravnopol, and Storozhova. The Ukrainians took a decision to attack in direction of Novodonetsk. And the Russian sources are saying that attack, the Ukrainians started somewhere at 5 a.m. of the local time, and the Russians are saying that the Ukrainians were and still pretty successful in that attack. And the main problem of that is that, based on the information we have from the open source, the Ukrainians attack the Russian positions in their flanks in Novodonetsk. And the problem is that there is a river, Kashlygach, this is the river. I'll show you with the line. So this is the river, and there is just one area where the Ukrainians could cross that river, and this bridge is located right in front of Novodonetsk. Somehow during the night the Ukrainians managed to build a pontoon bridge, or probably somehow to cross this river Kashlygach and to redeploy their tanks east in the south of the river, and then to attack the Russians in their flanks. And one more time repeated, the Russians are saying that Ukrainians were pretty successful in that attack, and furthermore, some sources were saying that Ukrainians managed to enter Novodonetsk, and there were fierce fightings in this area, and probably the Russians took a decision to step back from that settlement. Furthermore, the Russians reported that Ukrainians attacked the settlement with more than 30 units of NATO vehicles. So that attack included not just like Max Pro Humvees. Probably the Ukrainians were using like Strikers and Bradley tanks and Bradley armored vehicles or something like this. At least today we're going to receive more updates about this territory, about these clashes, but for now I'm just reporting the information that we have by 9 a.m. of the local time, that Ukrainians managed to enter Novodonetsk and that there are currently very heavy clashes, fierce fightings in this area. Now we are moving to Marinka. On this front line, the Russians managed to achieve some success, some progress during the previous 24 hours, and the special unit Akhmat and the squads of 5th Motorized Brigade managed to penetrate the Ukrainians' defense orders, and as a result of fierce fighting during the day, the Russians managed to establish control over this territory of Marinka, and currently the Russians controls more than, I believe, even 90%, and there's just small western edge of Marinka remains under Ukrainian control. So as you can see, this is a very significant progress from the Russian side. Now we're moving further and we're going to Artyomovsk. The Russian sources reported that Ukrainians during the night also made another wave of attack in direction of Solidar. There were no attacks on the flanks of Bakhmut, but there was attack in direction of Solidar. For now, we don't have any real information. The direction, the settlements where the Ukrainians launched their offensive operation. The only thing we know that attack took place on the north of Solidar, so probably somewhere from the bridgehead between Vasykovka, Mykolaievka, Saka, Ivantseti, Razdolovka. The Ukrainians launched that attack. The Russians are saying that they managed to repel that attack, and the Ukrainians couldn't establish control over even a square meter of this territory, and they were forced to step back. Interesting updates are coming from Kupiansk front line. Today we got the final confirmation that the Russians, as a result of crossing of Oskol River, managed to capture this metal settlement Novomlinsk, and now the Russians have at least 2 bridgeheads in the vicinity around Dvorechna, the first one in the south in the forest of that settlement, and the second one in the vicinity of Novomlinsk. Currently the Russians managed to prepare and create a powerful bridgehead, and these days we expect they start their movements and development of their attack to the west, trying to cut the supply road to Dvorechna from every side, and after that they will be able to capture Dvorechna itself, and then they will start developing their offensive operation to the south in direction of Kupiansk and to the west in direction of Pechenegi, trying to cut the Ukrainian forces who are located on this bridgehead and that Ukrainians used to attack and shell Shebekina and Belgorod region. And that's it for this short update. Military Summary channel reminds to condemn any violence in the world. Thank you for watching. Subscribe to my channel, put your likes, join my Patreon, and have a good day. Bye bye.